Ooh, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. How based, how woke, how questionable when it comes from a Malaysian profile. Tanah Melayu, tanah orang Melayu. The land of the Malays belongs to the Malay people. Ooh, no fascist particles detected there. I have my own contribution to my country, and it is none of your damn business. I paid my taxes and contributed to my people and their struggle. One of the biggest contributions of me and my people is letting dogs and rats like your people live on our land. Sea gypsies are stateless nomads that live on the sea, that refuse to follow the law in Sabah. Do not conflate the Bajau Darat and Bajau Laut. They built houses by the sea in Sabah illegally and refuse to accept citizenship for years. They can live on water, no problem, but not on our land. 99999! We have 100 indigenous races in Sabah, and you chose these stateless nomads who clearly came to Sabah to be beggars and drug-smoking degenerates. Go to Tawau, go to Sandakan. There's many rumah Bajau Tepi Laut, and they are all citizens of Sabah, of the fatherland, permitted to build houses there. Do not go and spread lies and talk all that without proof. Do not talk about protecting indigenous people in our fatherland if you cannot know that difference.
Hello, and welcome back to the cruel, brutal, dystopian, capitalist dictatorship of Kuala Lumpur. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the unruly state of my hair, which I'm aware makes me look like a 10-year-old, even though my 34th birthday is just around the corner. Yes. In July, I turned 34. What are you getting for me for my birthday? You know what? The best birthday present you can possibly give me would be 2,000 subscribers by my 34th birthday on July 30th. Can you do that? Can you get me 2,000 or more subscribers by July 30th? I'm sure you can. I believe in you, like you believe in me. Now let's get cracking with today's video. So recently I made a video about Pakatan Harapan, our ruling class in Malaysia, entitled Zionist in the Sheets, Pro-Palestine on the Streets. Now, this video is basically about our Malaysian government, which is purely performative when it comes to Palestine activism, considering that our Malaysian government invited the Lockheed Martin Defense Company to showcase their wares at our Arms Expo, and they are deep in bed with BlackRock. Now, Malaysians may have conveniently forgotten about the Lockheed Martin episode, much to our Prime Minister's relief, but I think Malaysians would like to know that BlackRock, the international multinational corporation, which holds about 7.4% of Lockheed Martin's shares, is also in talks to buy shares in the Malaysian Airport Holdings Berhad. Now, most Malaysians, much to our Prime Minister's relief, no doubt, might have forgotten about the Lockheed Martin incident about a month ago, but I think Malaysians will be interested to know that the multinational organization BlackRock, which is the equivalent of the East India Company today, is in talks with the Malaysian Airports Holdings Berhad in order to purchase shares. Now, why should this be a concerning issue to Malaysians? Well, that's because BlackRock has invested $4.6 billion into Lockheed Martin, which is approximately 7.4% of their shares. the very same Lockheed Martin that produces the weapons of mass destruction used to murder Palestinians, as well as other people around the global south. Yes, so I encourage the Malaysian people, even if you don't like me because you think I'm a dirty communist, to put pressure on the Harapan government to provide a satisfactory explanation as to why they are doing business with BlackRock. Because this is important, because BlackRock, by investing in our companies, is basically sending its tentacles into Malaysia. As Thomas Sankara said, he who feeds you controls you. By allowing foreign multinational finance capital corporations to invest in our Malaysian companies, what we are essentially doing is opening our doors to these predators in order to influence our decision making through the mighty power of capital, the almighty dollar. Yes, and considering our Prime Minister's Ned ties, which are far too close for comfort, I'm very uncomfortable with the BlackRock investments. And I think most Malaysians who consider themselves to be pro-Palestine and pro-Global South should also be uncomfortable. But speaking of performative activism, many Malaysians who call themselves pro-Palestine are simply performative. And let me explain why. Many Malaysians who call themselves pro-Palestine, who will put a Palestine flag in their profile, like our Pakatan Harapan, do not demonstrate the same values that they expect Israel and America to uphold when it concerns people in their own country. They will cry foul and wax lyrical about abusers abroad, as they should. The Palestinian people for over 70 years have been abused, mercilessly brutalized, and suffered a great historical injustice. No one is denying that. No one with a conscience is denying that. But at the same time, many people in Malaysia who support the Palestinians, at least who give lip service to Palestinian human rights, are doing so not because they genuinely care about the Palestinians, but rather because, well, they simply think it's an Islamic obligation. Just because, they assume that all Palestinians are Muslim, as if Christian or other religion Palestinians don't exist. And many people in Malaysia also support Palestine on the surface, fundamentally because they don't like Jewish people very much. Like Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir and Hadi Awang, our politician, for example, do not like Jewish people. And they've made it very clear that there's not a distinction between Yahudi and Zionist. But these very same people will ignore the cries of human rights on their own shores and ignore the call within their own house when it's most concerning. For instance, not only do they uphold discrimination against ethnic and religious minorities, and of homosexuals as well, they also promote discrimination against LGBT people, just like Jackson Hinkle. They also basically regard other races, other marginalized minorities, other types of refugees, like the Rohingyas, for instance, as being a lesser being than Palestinians. And I don't think Palestinian people, the plight of the Palestinian people, I don't think it should be downplayed. I think that the Palestinians have suffered a great historical injustice. But honestly, the Palestinians deserve quality allies. Not everyone who calls themselves pro-Palestinian, for instance, is someone that we should be admiring or promoting. Like, as I've mentioned, many Nazis actually joined up with the pro-Palestine movement. Not because they actually care about Palestinians, but because they don't like Jewish people. People like Jake Shields, for example, or you can see people like Jackson Hinkle, who are basically making a killing off the killing in Gaza, using the Palestine cause in order to further their own careers, getting filthy rich off the killings in Gaza, while talking like a Zionist when it concerns marginalized minorities like homosexuals or transgendered people in his own country. Yes, this is the very same problem we have in Malaysia, when you have people who support Palestine in theory but behave just like Zionists when other groups are concerned. Palestine does not need your support. In fact, when we have Nazis and fascists joining up the cause, they actually poison the bottle. One drop of poison spoils an entire bottle of wine. And when you have all these anti-social, anti-human elements joining up the movement, you're actually giving ammunition to the Zionists to point fingers and say, look, you see, we told you so, that the pro-Palestine movement were all comprised of a bunch of evil Nazis, right? Jackson Hinkle, for example, uses the pro-Palestine movement not only to get rich, but to demonize and dehumanize gay people and transgender people.
Here's the thing, everybody. If you are gay, a whore, or a satanic anti-human scum, I wouldn't be surprised if you oppose Hamas, or the Houthis, or Hezbollah. I wouldn't be surprised if you support the imperialists against Bashar al-Assad. I wouldn't be surprised if you oppose Putin's Russia or Xi Jinping's China. None of it would surprise me.
Some pro-Palestine activists in Malaysia will use the Palestine movement in order to lambast and hammer ethnic minorities in Malaysia. For example, the Chinese, by saying, how come the Chinese are still eating in McDonald's? How come the Chinese are still eating in Starbucks? How come the Chinese are not speaking out for Palestine? When the Chinese, scores and scores of Chinese have been speaking out for the Palestinians, it's just that they're too mired in their own bigotry and prejudice against ethnic minorities to see the humanity in the Chinese people or the Indian people. So, these people, while they may claim that they are against Zionist policy in Palestine, behave just like Zionists to their fellow countrymen and countrywomen. I don't want to be sexist here, but a clear and obvious case of this was how the stateless Bajau Laut people of Sabah and Sarawak were treated. In a recent case, you see just how many of these armchair activists flipped when it concerned the stateless refugees living on the beach in Malaysia who had their houses burned down. I literally lost my job speaking up for the Palestinians. Yeah, I was accused of trying to indoctrinate the children by some parents at the tuition center at which I worked. And so I lost a fat chunk of my paycheck as a result, because I brought the Palestine case to their attention. But many people who don't have any skin in the game will use the Palestine issue to virtue signal about how good they are as a Muslim person or how good they are as a human being, but when it concerns minorities in their own country, like Rohingyas, like the Bajau Laut, suddenly their rhetoric changes 100% and they say, don't compare the Palestinians to those people. Jangan samakan orang Palestine dengan Bajau Laut. Jangan samakan orang Palestin dengan orang Rohingya. Because Palestinians are apparently a higher grade of refugee. Do you think this is what the Palestinians want? Do you honestly think, if I were a Palestinian, do I want this kind of support from people who have the same mentality as Nazis? Yeah, the very same people who claim to be speaking up for Palestinians go full Nazi when it concerns, stateless Malaysians or when it concerns the ethnic minorities that they consider to be backward, you can see the change in their attitude. I'm just saying to all of you and to anyone watching this video, before sharing or retweeting a person who you think is pro-Palestine, please look up their background first. Because this person that you promote, whether it be people like Jackson Hinkle or Jake Shields, or whether it be our local Zionists in Malaysia who hate ethnic minorities, who hate refugees who aren't Palestinian, who hate dark-skinned refugees especially, please be careful before retweeting these people. Because these people do more harm than good to the Palestine cause. Also, please think very carefully before giving critical support to anti-Semites like Mahathir or Hadi Awang, because those people fundamentally damage Palestine, the Palestinian cause, in the sense that people who don't know anything about the Palestinian cause will start getting a very bad impression about it, because they might already have some inkling that, you know, it's a Nazi cause. And if you're sharing and retweeting Nazis, then yeah, that gives them no reason to believe that it isn't. Okay, so yeah, for those of you who say you support the Palestinians, congratulations, thank you for doing the bare minimum. But we do need to have certain standards. It's not a purity fetish to have certain standards of our, to have certain expectations of our comrades. And I have been accused of being ungrateful. Some of Jackson Hinkle's supporters, mostly men, mostly American men, have gotten very, very angry with me. You know, they've accused me of being ungrateful because apparently I'm an ankle biter, because Jackson Hinkle is the most popular pro-Palestine account who was never talking about Palestine until October 7th, right? And they started insulting me by even calling me things like a British worshipping cuck. This is exactly what we mean by a Western savior complex. This idea that people in the global South should be grateful because a white Western man is willing to speak up for us. I mean, Jackson Hinkle did not say anything about Palestine before October 7th, yeah? Jackson Hinkle did not care about Palestine until he realized he could make a buck off of it by being a Christian American white man to speak up for Palestine and even promote a certain $3 a month sort of account, you know, to help him defeat the Zionists. Apparently, you got to pay him $3 a month to get to his exclusive, you know, fan page. Yes, I really think, you know, the Palestinians really have suffered a great historical injustice, but at the same time, being pro-Palestine is the bare minimum, yeah? If you behave like a Zionist in all other respects, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but you are no better than a Zionist. Whether that be the American Christo-fascists who just so happen to not like Jews, and that's why they support Palestine, so to speak, or the Malaysian fascists who, you know, who just support Palestine because they think it's their obligation, but behave exactly like Zionists towards races or groups they consider inferior. You guys are no different from the Zionists, and Palestine, you know, deserves quality allies, which is why I will always speak up for the Palestinians, regardless of whether or not the movement is dominated by these people. But I really hope that we can take back the movement from all these problematic reactionary elements, and we can turn it into a normal and principled movement. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.